Hi everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all doing good and well. So in today's album review, I'm tackling the sixth studio album from Allegaeon and their album Damnum, released on the 25th of February via Metal Blade Records. And the album is 12 tracks and 1 hour in length. Allegaeon, I thought, was showing some signs that they might be taking a progressive turn for their next album on Apoptosis. It was seemingly hinted at as well when they covered Yes's Roundabout in 2020, and after listening to this album, I think it's been well and truly confirmed that they have gone for a much more progressive metal direction in this album. Yet, for its proggy nature, it certainly has an immediacy and a dynamic feel throughout almost all of its 12 tracks that I thought just showed that this band have really turned up a notch in so many ways. I mean, I enjoyed Apoptosis, but this album was one that has blown me away in the very best way possible. Now, whilst listening to this album as well, I could hear a lot of different influences coming in. I mean, there were one or two Opeth-like moments, but for me, at the forefront of my mind, the band I was most reminded of here was early era Soilwork, albums like Chain Heart Machine, Steel Bath Suicide, Predator's Portrait, Natural Born Chaos. Those kind of albums were swirling around in my head. I was thinking, oh yeah, this sounds a bit like this kind of an era of Soilwork, which got me excited because I love that era of Soilwork. And to me, the bands, Allegaeon have managed to use that influence without sort of creating any songs here which really sound like, they're not carbon copies of anything that was done there. It just, you can hear the influence and they've pulled it off incredibly well. So much to enjoy. So let's get into some of the tracks on this album that I really liked, although I think I'm going to be going through most of these tracks because I really enjoyed pretty much all of them. Bastards of the Earth began with a Spanish guitar introduction, which appears now and then in later stages of the album. There's a really nasty breakdown in this track as well, with some great build-up moments, great solos. Yet in spite of all these things they're throwing at you in the opener, it still comes together as a well-unified track, I thought. Beast and Worms was a killer pre-release single that I really enjoyed, with great moment from Riley McShane on the vocals with chorus. Into Embers had that killer kind of groovy guitar riff that came at you when you weren't sort of expecting it, and I think when that came back towards the end of the song, that was like one of the moments on the album I enjoyed the most. Great riff in Into Embers. To Carry My Grief through Splendor and Turba. Again, I thought this was showing more of Allegaeon's more technical side, but offered us that Spanish guitar section as well, but they managed again to make that feel right on the song and not too forced or jolted. Worked incredibly well again. Vermin was a face-melting single, and this was one that did definitely remind me of Chain Heart Machine's sort of era Soilwork, with those pulsating riffs and stunning Melodeath style guitar solos thrown at you left, right and centre in this track. As I say, I could just keep going on with track art. It's song after song here is just excellent. Called Home was the Opeth-like track, which I thought showed most of all Allegiance kind of were crossing over more and more into that progressive style as the album progressed. Blight threw in that interesting kind of piano solo, which almost sounded, I don't know if it was improvised, but it all sounded perfect, but it also sounded a little improvised, but I have no basis on which to say that. But it was excellent nonetheless. Dopamine Voids Part 1 and Part 2 were also pretty good, but I did like the mellow nature of Part 1, the most mellow part perhaps of the whole album, barring maybe In Morning, the other Spanish guitar section that we had, the penultimate track. And Only Loss, which was a fantastic finish to a fantastic album for which nothing less here would have sufficed. I thought this has to finish on a high. It has been too good pretty much from the start. The only track that maybe, just maybe, didn't kind of impact me in quite the same way as the rest of the album was Saturnine, which was more of a sort of upfront sort of, death metal style, I thought. But the arrangement on this one, I just didn't quite find maybe as interesting as the other tracks. However, let's not take away from this as being a pretty early contender as one of the albums of the year for me. I will be very surprised if this doesn't make my list at the end of the year, but there's still 10 months left of the year, and if the sort of a lot of more albums come out like this, it's going to be an extremely tough year to do an end of year list for. But anyway, I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. This is my third 9 out of 10 of 2022. What did you all think of this album? Maybe, it's not so much for you, but for me, it's a really good one. Do drop in the comments your thoughts on the album. What were your favourite tracks? What were your highlights on this particular release from the Legion? How do you think it compares to the rest of the discography, as I always say? Otherwise, next video coming up. As I say, fingers crossed, all being well, I'm going to be putting up my top 20 albums of 2019 coming up on Saturday. So I will be looking forward maybe to, seeing you then if you're around. Otherwise, from me, as I always say, take care, everyone, and bye for now.